This is Mr. Martin. These are video notes for Pre-Calculus Advanced. In the previous video we started building the unit circle and we were basically talking about the first quadrant and how all of these coordinates here basically come from the fact that we're working with 30, 60, 90 triangles or 45, this is for our 45, 45, 90 triangle. And we learned in geometry and maybe also in advanced algebra or algebra 2 that these special right triangles 30, 60, 90s and 45, 45, 90s always have the same ratios of the sides, and that's what we're working with these special angles of the unit circle. So what we want to do now is go ahead and finish filling in the angles, and then once we get those in, the angles, I'm going to have you finish filling out the coordinates. And then you could check those when you get to class, or you can check those on the board when you're in class. So let's start with my 180 degrees over here. So one of the things that I like to do is label my quadrant angles in terms of whatever angle I'm working with. So for example, if I'm working with pi over 6's, I would label this 6 pi over 6. Okay, or if I'm working with pi over 4's, I would label this as 4 pi over 4. Or if I'm working in pi over 3's, I would label it 3 pi over 3, or 2 pi over 2, or 12 pi over 12, or whatever is convenient for you for that problem. So if I'm thinking about this in terms of pi over 6's, I see my pi over 6, I mentioned in the other video, you can see the pi over 6 is closer to the x-axis than it is the y-axis. That's going to be true for every pi over 6 in this unit circle. So when we come over to this special point over here, this is going to be a pi over 6. So we got to figure out which pi over 6 it is. Well, if I went all the way to 180, that would be 6 pi over 6. So I'm going backwards 1 pi over 6, which would make this 5 pi over 6. And then I'm going to let you finish filling out the degrees as well so you can convert those. So this is 6 pi over 6. So if I go 1 back, that's going to be 5 pi over 6. If I go 1 forward, that's going to be 7 pi over 6. Okay, again, here's another special angle that's closer to the x-axis. Those are my pi over 6's. Remember, those are our multiples of 30. Okay, and then while we're here, let's do this. This is 180 degrees, and that's pi radians, and we're going to the left 1, so my coordinates are -1, 0. And then the tangent here is going to be 0 divided by -1, which is 0. That's my tangent. Alright, so that's my pi over 6's. Now let's talk about our pi over 4's. The pi over 4's, those are my 45 degrees. We know those are going to be right in the middle of each quadrant. So there's my 1 pi over 4. And then if I come all the way to 180, I know that this is 4 pi over 4. So then if I come 1 pi over 4 back, I know this has to be 1 less than that. So that's 3 pi over 4. Again, you'll figure out the degrees. And if I go 1 farther, I know it's going to be, that's 4, this has to be 5 pi over 4. Oop, let's put that in the right box here. 5 pi over 4. Alright, now for the pi over 3's, my pi over 3's are closer to the y-axis because that's 60 degrees. So this is going to be a pi over 3 over here. Again, it was 3 pi over 3 to get to 180. So if I go 1 pi over 3 back, that's going to be 2 pi over 3. So I'm going to go 2 pi over 3, 3 pi over 3. So the next one down here has to be 4 pi over 3. Alright, then coming down to the bottom, this is going to be 270 degrees. I'm going 0 in the x direction and -1 in the y direction. I know this is 390 degrees, so that's going to be 3 pi over 2. Again, the tangent is the y divided by the x. Since the x is 0, we can't divide by 0, so the tangent here is going to be undefined. Alright, if you need to pause or rewind at any point, make sure you do that because I'm kind of going through this quickly. Alright, let's get back to here. If I'm starting at 0 and I go all the way around, I know that's going to be 360 degrees, which I figured out was 2 pi. And again, my coordinates are going to be 1, 0, and the tangent is also going to be 0. So 0 and 2 pi, they're the same place. Remember, that's called coterminal. And if I want to finish filling out the fourth quadrant, let's think about what 2 pi would be in terms of my other angles. So in terms of 6, it's going to be 12 pi over 6. That's 2 pi. It reduces to 2 pi. In terms of fourths, it would be 8 pi over 4. In terms of thirds, it would be 6 pi over 3. So there's my 2 pi in all my different denominators. I know my pi over 6 is going to be the one that's closest to the x-axis. So if this is 12 pi over 6, if I go 1 prior to that, it would have to be 11 pi over 6. This can also be 8 pi over 4. So if I go 1 back from that, 1 prior to that, it would have to be 7 pi over 4. And then for my thirds, it was 6 pi over 3, so that would be 5 pi over 3. So here's all my angles in radians. You're going to go back and fill out what those are in degrees. And what I also want you to do is go ahead and fill out the xy coordinates and the tangents. Now, here's where I mentioned you really only need to figure out the first quadrant. So in the first quadrant, I see that pi over 6 is root 3 over 2 and 1/2. Any angle that's a multiple of pi over 6 has to have the same coordinates and the same tangent. The only difference is going to be whether it's positive or it's negative. So we'll do one together. Let's just do 5 pi over 6. I know that its coordinates have to be root 3 over 2 1/2, and its tangent has to be root 3 over 3, but since we're in the second quadrant, and I know I have positive or negative, positive, negative, only the sign is positive, I know once I do this, I'm going to have negative root 3 over 2, positive 1/2, because the sign is based on the y, and we'll put my tangent on the outside here. The tangent is also going to be negative. It's going to be negative root 3 over 3 for my tangent. Okay, so same coordinates, same tangent, except the only thing positive is the sign. Remember, all students take classes sign for students. Only the sign is positive. So all my other angles, they're going to have these same values and tangents. You just need to figure out what's positive and what's negative. So I'm going to go ahead and end the video there. Go ahead and finish filling out your unit circle. And when you get to class or you finish this, and if you're in class already, go ahead and check that. And as always, make sure that you ask me questions if you have any. And we'll see you in the next video.